The Formula One cost cap has once again become a prominent topic of discussion, when the FIA has found itself forced to dismiss reports of budget breaches by 3 teams. But what exactly does this cost cap entail, and how does it work? What led to Red Bull Racing's violation of these rules, and what consequences did they face? Keep watching till the end to find out. First, let's try to answer. What is the F1 cost cap? The Formula One cost cap was introduced for the first time in 2021, and it's all about making F1 a fairer and more competitive championship. The idea behind this cost cap is simple. By setting a limit on spending, Formula One aims to level the playing field and create an environment where smaller teams with limited resources at their disposal can compete on a more equitable footing against their competitors with substantial budgets. Previously, certain Formula One teams were notorious for their extravagant spending, with some exceeding the staggering sum of $400 million per season. Another one of its key objectives was to ensure that Formula One remains financially sustainable by limiting the amount of money a team can spend over the course of a calendar year, thereby avoiding spiraling costs. The introduction of the cost cap signified a significant shift in the sport's financial landscape. However, the effectiveness and application of this cost cap have been questioned, as evidenced by the recent reports of budget breaches. But before that, let's find out, how much is the cost cap? Originally, back in 2021, the budget cap was intended to be set at $175 million. But, as we all know, financial difficulties were rampant due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and that placed great urgency on cost reduction. Considering this, the cap was reduced to $145 million. But in 2022, the cap was reduced even further, down to $140 million. And guess what? The FIA plans on continuing to reduce it to $135 million for the Formula One season spanning 2023 through 2025. Keep in mind, these figures are calculated based on a 21-race season and will be adjusted accordingly, including an additional allowance of $1.2 million for every race beyond that established threshold. Recognizing the impact of surging inflation on team budgets, the FIA approved a 3.1% increase in the 2022 cost cap to alleviate these financial pressures. What all is included under the cost cap? The cost cap covers a broad spectrum of expenses, covering all facets of the team's operation. It includes everything from the various parts that make up the car, stretching from the steering wheel to the wheel nuts to the essential elements needed to run the car. It also encompasses most of the team's personnel, garage equipment, spare parts, transport costs, and pretty much everything that plays a role in the team's Formula One campaign. At the same time, it's crucial to note that certain expenses remain outside the scope of the cost cap. These exclusions are quite important and consist of Formula One driver salaries, the wages of the 3 highest-paid team members, travel-related costs, marketing expenditures, property and legal costs, entry and license fees, activities unrelated to Formula One or road car operations, payments for parental and sick leave, and any employee bonuses or medical benefits provided to staff members. Due to these budget constraints, teams have found themselves forced to implement various techniques to achieve cost savings. Christian Horner disclosed that Red Bull had to let go of more than 90 employees, while Mercedes made the difficult decision to lay off 40 staff members. One of the most impactful cost-saving strategies is also one that particularly impacts the larger teams, scaling back on development and reducing manufacturing time. Hamilton claimed that the 2021 world title would have been his if Mercedes had spent an extra $300,000 on upgrades, such as a new floor or an adapted wing. In 2021, Red Bull Racing, one of the sport's leading teams, found itself in hot water as they breached the Formula One cost cap. So how did Red Bull break the rules? The FIA found Red Bull Racing guilty of a minor budget overspend of the 2021 $145 million budget in a huge end-of-season scandal, while Verstappen was wrapping up the 2022 title. 13 areas were incorrectly interpreted by Red Bull, including staff catering, social security contributions, apprenticeship levies, unused spare parts for the car, and charging certain costs to Red Bull powertrains. Despite team principal Christian Horner's assertion that the overspending had no impact on their performance, penalties were imposed on Red Bull. On 26th of October, 2022, during the Mexico City Grand Prix, Red Bull Racing received their penalties following the establishment of an accepted breach agreement, ABA, with the FIA. This ABA required Red Bull to acknowledge their transgressions, as they had exceeded the budget cap by $2.2 million due to inaccuracies in excluding or adjusting various costs. Notably, the FIA recognized that if a tax credit had been accurately applied, Red Bull's overspending would have been a mere $0.5 million. The FIA's decision to enter into this agreement was not arbitrary and recognized that Red Bull Racing had demonstrated a cooperative attitude throughout the investigation process. It's also important to note that this was the first year in which the notoriously intricate financial regulations were being fully applied, so all participating teams were still adapting to their nuances. The breaches were considered relatively minor, and most importantly, FIA addressed talk of cheating in their statement. There is no accusation or evidence that Red Bull has sought at any time to act in bad faith, dishonestly, or in a fraudulent manner, nor has it willfully concealed any information from the Cost Cap Administration. Red Bull was slapped with a $7 million fine that was to be settled within 30 days of signing the ABA. Along with this, Red Bull also faced a 10% reduction in their wind tunnel time for the 2023 season. And lastly, Red Bull Racing was also obligated to cover the costs incurred by the Cost Cap Administration in connection with the preparation of the ABA. Fast forward to 2023, and Red Bull are dominating the current season despite their punishment, leading to criticism from players like Lewis Hamilton. I mean, there wasn't really a big punishment last time, so there's no real deterrent. There will be people that will probably go for it again, and know they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. But was Red Bull the only team to violate the rules and face its consequences? In October 2022, Aston Martin also entered into an ABA and received a $450,000 fine as a consequence of their breach of the 2021 cost cap agreement. While AM did not exceed the $145 million limit, they were hit with the penalty for a procedural breach due to not submitting accurate full-year reporting documentation for the 2021 season. Earlier the same year, Williams also faced a penalty of $25,000 since the team failed to submit their financial documentation for the 2021 financial year by the deadline of March 31st, 2022, as per guidelines stipulated under Article 5.1b of the financial regulations. So then, what has happened in 2023? Prior to the 2023 Hungarian GP, reports surfaced indicating that up to 3 F1 teams were potentially in violation of the 2022 budget, prompting an investigation by the FIA. According to these reports, the FIA's investigation involved making unscheduled visits to factories, conducting interviews with staff members, and even scrutinizing WhatsApp conversations. However, the FIA recently issued an official statement to set the record straight. In light of recent reporting, we'd like to reiterate the ongoing process preceding financial regulation certification for the teams, none of which have been informed of their certification status. The statement further explained that the auditing process is still underway and is expected to conclude in the upcoming weeks, which will be followed by a period needed to finalize the review. Crucially, the FIA made it crystal clear that there has never been a specific deadline for certification. Therefore, any notions of delays or potential breaches in the process are completely baseless, and the flexibility in the time frame is intentional to ensure a comprehensive and unbiased review process. Red Bull's breach of the Formula One cost cap in 2021 and the resulting ABA serves as a reminder that even the most successful teams are subject to scrutiny and accountability. As avid watchers, we hope that the sport's commitment to fairness and transparency contributes to its continued growth. And if you liked watching the video, don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button.